In today's video, we will be going over the SSIS QuickBooks components which are included in our SSIS integration toolkit for QuickBooks. The QuickBooks Connection Manager is needed to establish a connection to the QuickBooks environment and will be used alongside the source component for reading or the destination component for writing data to our target QuickBooks system. If working with an on-premise QuickBooks environment, we will go into the details of how to work with our QuickBooks Desktop Gateway, which will be running in the same server as the on-premise QuickBooks instance is on. We will start with the Connection Manager. In our Integration Services project, we can create this by going to the Connection Manager window and selecting New Connection. From the drop-down, find the QuickBooks KingswaySoft option and select Add. Under the General page, we can first choose the deployment type. If working with an online instance, you can keep the online option, otherwise desktop may be selected. First, we will go over the online option. The base URL will already be populated, but this is an editable field if any changes are needed. In a further step, when Sandbox instance is selected, the base URL will automatically change to suit this instance type. If you have an existing token created with our component, you may select the path to the token file using a file system path or Azure Blob Storage Shared Access Signature URL, SAS URL, as we support both options as well as the associated password. If a new token needs to be generated, you may click the Generate New Token file, which will take you to the Token Generator page. The first option you may enable if the instance type is a sandbox environment, otherwise you may leave this unchecked. For the app type, we provide our KingswaySoft app, which you may use, and it's our public app to get quickly started. We would recommend working with your own app in a production setting. In both cases, the app info would be the client ID, client secret, redirect URI, and the scope. The client ID is a unique ID value that identifies the app making the request. Within the developer portal, within the app, you may find this under the keys and OAuth section, and the client secret may be found and generated here as well. For the client secret, this would be the client secret associated to the app. A new client secret may also be generated in the same section, as if you leave the page, the field will be masked. For the redirect URI, you can specify the redirect URI that you have assigned to your app. In the same developer page found under the redirect URI section, a new one may also be entered after your app is already created. For the scope, our component provides one by default, but you may include as you may edit this field. You may enable the Use Default Browser to sign in if you want to use your computer's default browser, or if left unchecked, the authentication process will be done within our component. We enter our credentials for QuickBooks and sign in. We select the company if applicable, and the page will get redirected back to our component. You would see additional account details such as the company ID and company name. We can enter a password for the token and click the Save to Token File button to save the token locally on your computer. We'll be working with this configuration so we can test the connection and make sure it's successful. If you are working with an on-premise instance of QuickBooks, you may select the desktop deployment option. You would need to make sure the QuickBooks Gateway program is installed on the same machine as where QuickBooks is installed. The gateway should be open and running in the background. You would also need to have QuickBooks running as well. You may enter the service URL, which allows you to connect to the QuickBooks Desktop Gateway. The service URL will contain the machine name or IP address along with the configured port number. The username and password will be used to connect for a specific user. We can go over the QuickBooks Desktop Gateway as it's used to bridge the gap between SSIS and QuickBooks on-premise. When installing the QuickBooks Toolkit, this program will get installed as well. When opened, we first start with the General page. At the top left, after you have configured the Desktop Gateway, you may manage by starting, stopping, or restarting the gateway. The port number of the QuickBooks server will also be set here. Below, you may allow all IP addresses or set a specific set of IP addresses of the users allowed to connect to your QuickBooks server. The second page, QBFC, allows you to configure the QuickBooks connection type. The local QBD and Launch UI option tells the request processor to connect to the local QuickBooks, and request a local copy starts up its user interface, which will prompt the user to log in. The other option is local QBD only connect to the QBD running locally. The unattended mode required for QB auth preference. You would leave this off when the application does not require unattended mode, or enable this if the application requires unattended mode to function correctly. The QB Open mode has 3 available options. The default allows for multi-user or single user, depending on if the company file is currently open or closed. The other options is either single user or multi-user, which may be selected. Under the third page, Security, you may include and remove users. The company file may be included as well to the right for the user. However, a user may also be added without a company file. This will allow the user to have access to the company file open at the time of the request. The benefit is you can differentiate connections to different company files on the same machine while also adding another layer of security. The second option on this page involves certificates. You may leave it as is if no certificate is used, otherwise to enable HTTPS, select the second option, Use Custom Certificate. This will allow you to select a certificate file and provide the accompanied password. If we go to the last page, you may enable logging, which will allow you to set a path to the log file. There is a path provided by default which may be changed. This will log requests made to the QuickBooks Desktop Gateway. The last option, Paging Cache Lifespan, lets you choose the number of minutes the page query results are cached on the server to optimize performance during subsequent data retrieval requests. Essentially, faster access while the cache is active, and it will be cleared when the time elapses. If we go back into the second page of the component, we can set proxy configurations here. By default, this is set to no proxy, but you may use the auto detect for system configure proxies. Otherwise, you may manually enter the proxy details such as a server and port. If authentication is required, you may enable the option and provide a username and password as well. For the timeout option, this option allows you to set a timeout value in seconds for the connection, and by default this is set to 2 minutes. For the API throttling rate, you may limit the number of requests the component will send per minute. Otherwise, you may leave this at 0, which will disable the throttling. For the option Retry on Intermittent Errors, when enabled, this would allow our components to retry if it detects a brief intermittent error has occurred. And it can help in these cases to try once more rather than fail the execution. The last page, More Info, just provides basic information about the toolkit and version. Once we are happy with the setup, we can click OK to save and close the current configuration. To read data from our QuickBooks environment, we can drag and drop the source component into our data flow window. In the first page, General, when we open it, we can provide an existing connection manager or create a new one using the New option. We can first select and show the on-premise connection. The batch size can be set, and this is the number of records included in each call when retrieving data. The source entity may be selected for the entity you want to work with, and if the entity has child entities, those can be included by checking them in the dropdown as well. For the output time zone, this will allow you to specify how you would like the date time fields to be outputted, either UTC or local time. The QBXML option allows you to filter string to retrieve just the data that meets the criteria. We will provide an XML formatted filter to retrieve customer records on or after a specified date. A variable may be inserted as well, so the filter can be applied dynamically. If we change to our online connection manager, we have a source type dropdown with 3 options to choose from. Entity may be selected to directly choose an entity. This is the only option available for the desktop version, as we have seen before. The Include Inactive Records checkbox will become available if you select a name list entity, such as Customer, from the Source List dropdown. When enabled, this will retrieve records that have their active field set to false, or in other words, soft deleted. This would only be available for the online connection. When query is selected, you would see at the bottom the QBO query window, and a filter would be provided. We can select all the customers that are active and have them ordered by their display name. Variables may be inserted here as well into the query to replace static values. The change data capture operation is used when you want to track changes without having to retrieve all the records. When you provide a change since datetime value, this will help you identify which entities have been added, updated, or deleted within the time frame for the source entity. The change date since parameter can look back up to 30 days. The last option available for online environments is the minor version. You can select the API minor version you would like to use from the dropdown, or when left, it will select the default one. If there have been any metadata changes, you may click the Refresh Component button, which will reflect any new changes. If you select the Effects icon button, this will take you to the Property Expressions editor where you can set expressions for the component's properties. Once configured, we can go to the Columns page. We will include a child entity and show how another output is created with their own set of columns. From the dropdown, you may select the entity or any child selected. You may hide selected fields to only show unchecked fields, or hide any unselected fields to show only the fields that have been selected. You may filter to help find a field quickly. All fields can be toggled on or off, or selected fields can be selected or unselected. For certain field data types, these may be adjusted by clicking in the field. Once we are happy with the configuration, we can click OK to save and close. As we have an additional output, you may map each to a downstream component. We have added 2 source components in our flow for sample data from upstream. From the SSIS toolbox, we can drag and drop a QuickBooks destination component. We can first select the on-premise connection manager, which provides us with 4 actions when writing our data. The create action is used for creating a new record. The update action is used for updating an existing record. The delete action is used for deleting records, and void would be used for voiding records. If we switch the connection manager to online, there are different options available. The soft delete may be selected for QuickBooks name list entities such as customer, and will perform an update on the record and set the active field to false. Hard delete may be selected for QuickBooks transaction entities such as invoice, and this will permanently delete the record. The last action, upload, is used to import or add data files into the system. Under destination entity, you may select the entity that you would like to work with. The batch size, you can specify how many entities should be written for each service call. Note that for the upload action, this would be disabled, and for other actions, there may be a limit on the QuickBooks server side. The input time zone may be selected if you would like to work with the UTC or local time of the machine. The API miner version may be selected from the dropdown as well. If we include another input from upstream and attach it to our destination component, there will be additional child output settings that we can implement. The option link IDs are scrambled may be selected if upstream data is unsorted between the inputs. The link IDs from the source system can be in the random order, in which case our component will perform an in-memory match and join. The upstream input child can be mapped to the child entities for the destination entity. Now we can go to the columns page, and in the first dropdown we can select the entity that we would like to work with. Our component will automatically map input fields to QuickBooks fields based on the name, otherwise you may also map them manually yourself. At the bottom we have 2 options to quickly map based on the field name, or clear all mappings in the current output. On the last page you can see how to handle errors and any additional outputs that are available. By default, the component will fail on error and throw an exception. The second option would redirect the rows to the error output path, or the error can be ignored. In the default output, you may enable the QuickBooks Record ID, which will display the ID of the records. When we are happy with the configuration, we can click OK to save and close. We will add 2 downstream components. The first one we can connect to the blue path, which is the default output. If selected, the record ID will be made available here. In the red path, which is the error redirect output, in the metadata we can see 3 additional fields: error code, error column, and error message that are made available, and these fields can be used for logging purposes. We hope this video has been helpful in understanding our QuickBooks components for both desktop and online environments. You will now be able to confidently utilize our components in your integrations. Kingsway Soft. Data integration made easy.